method. You have $1, $10, and $20 bills and you turn them into $100 each. That's a great deal, of course, in JavaScript. Let's get started. Map calls a provided callback function once for each element in an array in order and constructs a new array from the results. The callback is invoked only for indexes of the array which have assigned values, including undefined. This function is a callback which has 3 arguments. The first one is the element. You can call it whatever you want: fruit, lm, item, whatever. It is the current element being processed in the array. The second argument is optional, which is the index of the element in the array. It starts from 0. And the last one is the optional array, which is a reference to the original array. We want to turn the whole array into apples. We apply the map function to the original array with a simple callback that returns an apple. In the first iteration, the callback will turn the banana into an apple. In the second iteration, the apple will also be transformed into an apple, and in the third, the strawberry is transformed into the apple, and so on. Now let's see some code examples in JavaScript. Fruits are great, they give us a lot of vitamins, but now we will put them in an array that we will use in the following examples. I hope you like bananas, apples, strawberries, and watermelons. The first example is very simple. We will turn all fruits into apples, meaning we map each fruit into an apple using the map method of the fruits array like in the presentation before. We notice that the original fruit array and the newly created apples array have the same length. We can return an object that also contains the quantity, but in this way we only get an error, because there are expected code instructions inside the braces. We solve the problem by adding the expression in parentheses or using the return keyword. The last option is probably clearer, especially for beginners who can easily fall into the trap shown. Hit the subscribe button, the bell, and we continue with an example in which we double each fruit. Map the fruit into a string that contains the fruit and its index in the array. As you well know, the indexes in the 2 arrays will be identical. We want to get a new array only with the apples label for each apple. If the condition is not met, it will be put undefined, and yes, we get a strange array with many undefined values. To get rid of these values, we can use the filter method because the map is chainable. It means that the array returned by the map can be used as an input for another array method like filter. In this example, we will see the use of the second argument of the map method, which is this. We want to map the fruit array into a new one in which the elements are objects with 2 fields, label and category. We will define the category as a class, which is a little more complicated than it should be, but just to illustrate this example. The category class has the category label field, and we can use the created object transmitted as a second parameter that will give a context to the map function. We define the asynchronous fetch post function, which will receive an ID as a parameter and return the corresponding post from a public endpoint. The callback can be asynchronous, and the map will return an array of promises that we can solve with promise.all and get the values taken from the endpoint. Because we are not interested in all the properties of a post, we will only keep the ID and title by reapplying the map function to the post array. Knowing how the map function works, however, you should not use it in cases where it is not necessary. For example, if we want to log all the elements of an array, we should not use map and console.log as a callback as in this example. It would be more correct to use for each that returns undefined. It's very easy. When you don't need the array returned by the map, you will have to use another method like for each. The map method is extremely used by the React community because we can map the JSON data into React components into HTML elements that we can use to render them on the screen like these fruit cards. It's challenge time! An array with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 as strings is given and the parseInt function as a callback. The challenge is to tell me what will be displayed and how you can solve the discovered problem. Pause the tutorial and try to think. ParseInt is often used with one argument, which is a number as a string, but takes two arguments. The first is an expression and the second is the radix to the callback function. Map passes three arguments: the element, the index, which is used as a radix, and here is the catch, and the last one, which is the array, and this is ignored. One solution would be to use a callback that will return the result given by the parseInt function that receives only the element as the first argument. Remember that map is very much used in React apps. The result is a new array obtained by applying a function on the original array. If the callback is asynchronous, the result will be an array of promises that you can solve with promise.all. Since map builds a new array, using it when you aren't using the returned array is an anti-pattern. Use for each or for of instead. I invite you to subscribe, like and share to learn programming fast. Activate notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks for watching!